Hello, everyone, and welcome you today at this webinar at the Soltesz Institute, where we are giving you proficiency in payments and banking. My name is Viktoria Soltesz. I'm the founder of the Soltesz Institute, and we are fighting for an ethical and transparent industry when it comes to payments and banking. Today's topic is a very, very interesting one because, to be honest with you, I feel that we can't discuss international payments and banking without talking about the Islamic finance. And I feel strongly that at least at the basics, we do need to understand how Islamic banks are working, how these financial institutions having an approach to payments and banking and international transactions. What are those little criterias that they have differently than the traditional banks everywhere else in the world? And what do we need to pay attention as users when we are using an Islamic finance entity and business? So today, Muhammad joined me, who is an expert on the subject. Hello, thank you very much for joining us. And thank you for sharing your wisdom. I'm actually really curious about how you started and how did you end up in finance? And of course, then we can discuss more about the Islamic finance, but just tell us a bit more about who is Muhammad and how did you end up in finance?
Thank you very much, Victoria, for having me in this conversation. My name is Muhammad Zubair Mughas. I am associated with Al Huda Center for Islamic Banking and Economics since 2005. Basically, we are working for the development of Islamic banking and finance industry in different parts of the world by providing our advisory, consulting, and capacity building services to Islamic banks, the kafir companies, Islamic fintechs, Islamic microfinance, Islamic capital market, Sukuk, and other allied areas of Islamic finance. We are basically UAE-based organization, but working in different parts of the world. We are addressing our services in Asian market, African market, European, North American, and Australian markets. So one of our major concern is to develop Islamic banking and finance industry. We also organize some couple of webinars, seminars, workshops, and conferences so that we can give more and more knowledge related to Islamic banking and finance. About myself, I did my bachelor, master, and postmaster's degrees in Islamic banking and finance. And from last 22 years, I used to be work for World Bank, United Nations program, different central banks. And I have experience to set up a couple of Islamic banks, the kafir companies, setting up Islamic fintechs, and as well as to design different product and structure. I have experience to work and travel about 91 countries related to Islamic finance. And I have experience to design different Islamic financial products and structures. Yep.
Right. So perfect. You are really the perfect person to pick your brain about Islamic finance. So let's just jump in. What is Islamic finance? Why is it different? And why do you think that we have to talk about Islamic finance as a separate way of dealing with what is actually Islamic finance?
Basically, as you probably know, that interest is prohibited in all the divine religions, not only in Islam, but interest is prohibited in Christianity, Judaism, and other respected religions. But in Islam, we have very strict verdict against interest. Therefore, the majority of Muslims, they do not want to utilize interest-based banking and financial products and remain excluded from the financial access. This is one of the major reasons that Muslims are majorly financially excluded. There was one report, according to that report, about 39% of the world poverty reside in Muslim world, while the total Muslim population in the world is 23%. So in the Muslim, there is one limitation that due to their religious obligations, they do not want to utilize interest-based banking and financial product. And we are trying to introduce the alternative, that what would be the alternative for them to fulfill their banking and financial needs, which is definitely Islamic banking and finance. So we can say Islamic banking is a tool of financial inclusion for those segments of the society who do not want to utilize interest-based product, financial product due to the religious reasons. If we see globally Islamic banking and finance growing very well, right now the total size of Islamic banking and financial industry is about $4.5 trillion, and about 6,000 Islamic banking and financial institutions are working in about 120 countries. The Islamic banking and finance is a very good tool for banking and financial services, a very good tool for the financial inclusion, and the result and the impact of those banking and financial services is very good as well. Therefore, Islamic banking and finance is being recognized as a sustainable banking and financial system. And I'm very much happy to share that right now Islamic banking is not only limited to the Muslim segment of the world. Many non-Muslim countries are having a very good experience of Islamic banking and financial products, and because most of the Islamic banking products have a very good ethical approach. I was in United States last year, and when I did smart research there, how many Islamic banking and financial institutions are working in only in US, and those were about 53. Similarly, in European market, the country like France, Switzerland, UK, Turkey, and many other countries of Europe, they are also practicing the Islamic banking product. And by the way, Islamic banking and finance is a banking and financial product. That is not a religion. But yes, that is being derived by the religious interventions. But otherwise, this is a banking and financial product which can be utilized or operated by Muslims and non-Muslims. But for Muslims, they have an extra advantage that it is according to their religious belief. But for non-Muslim brothers and sisters, that is a very good system for banking and finance.
Nice. And I'm sure that we can't discuss everything that you're teaching, obviously, about Islamic financing within this 1 hour, but just give us a bit of understanding on the basics. What is wrong with charging interest? And even if, these financial institutions don't charge interest, how do Islamic banks generate any revenue without charging this interest? And what does riba mean?
Wonderful question. That is a very common question as well, that if there is no interest in Islamic banking, then how Islamic banks works? Basically, in Islam, we have prohibition of interest, but we do not have prohibition for trade or business and etc. So basically, in Islamic banking, we have a product which is belong to the trade, to belong to the leasing and etc. In Islamic banking, if we categorize, we have majorly 3 types of product. Since in Islamic banking we do not have interest, therefore Islamic banks work with their client. Number one, on the basis of the partnership. The partnership with their clients. Islamic bank usually give the money to their client for the business, and whatever is the profit from the business, that profit is being shared with the Islamic bank. In conventional banking, they are giving on the fixed interest that this is your financing on fixed interest rate. Whatever is profit or loss, it will be limited to their client. But in Islamic banking, no, they have to give the money. But if there is a profit, they will take the share from the profit. But if there is a loss, Islamic banks have to bear the loss as well. So one type of the product in Islamic banking is the partnership-based product. Those products are mudarba and musharka, whereas the bank and client work as the partners. The second type of products are basically the trade-based product, in which banks have to sell any asset to the client on profit margin. Those products are murabaha, muswamaha. And sometimes client have to sell some asset to the client. And those products are Salam and Istasna. So that is the second type of product. The third type of product in Islamic banking is based on renter-based product, whereas bank and client are involved in lessee or resort mechanism. And those products are Ijara and diminishing musharka. And sometimes bank also have non-fund based product as well, where bank is charging their administration fees and offering those services. So that is the mechanism that how Islamic banks work without riba or interest. As per the concern about what is interest, basically in Islam, we have two types of interest. One is prohibited by the Holy Quran, and one is the prohibited by the Holy Prophet. But being a layman, if we can understand what is the interest, meaning that if you charge any benefit in your cash loan, that is called interest. For example, I give you $10,000 and after 1 year, you're supposed to return me $2,000. So what is the extra benefit? That is called interest. And that extra benefit is not necessarily in the shape of cash. Might be another benefit. For example, I give you $10,000 as a cash loan. And I told you that after 1 year, you have to return me $10,000. But I have one brother, please employ him in your company. And you did so. Islam say that employment of my brother in your company is interest as well. So Islam say that whenever you have to give a cash loan to any person, you cannot take any benefit, either monetary or non-monetary. Because in Islam says that giving the loan to a person, the reward will be given to us by God, not by the humans. So therefore, in Islam, we do not charge any benefit or extra amount while we deal with a cash loan. So since in the banking, the cash is involved, why such type of transaction, most of the Islamic banking structure either based on the partnership, where banks involved in the partnership mechanism and share the profit from the genuine profit of the client, or they are selling the product to each other. And the third, either they are involved in renter-based mechanism and charging the renter amount, whatever asset supposed to be financed to the client. So that is the mechanism that how Islamic banks basically works without interest.
It's very, very interesting. And it actually opens your mind up that how right is to charge interest overall in the traditional banking. Because as you mentioned, if someone is giving money to help the business, then they share the profit back. So in this way, the Islamic finance institutions are not just giving a loan, but also taking interest of the success of that company, right? So in this way, it could be even more than the interest. But in this way, they also interested to help that company even further with even just advice or further investment. It's a very nice way to see business from a different perspective. So thank you very much for sharing that, because I'm sure that a lot of even payment and banking experts in the other part of the world might not really grasp the point. So it was really thorough. So thank you. But when it comes to Islamic finance, when you're talking about the international financial system, when the flows are flowing between different companies, countries, and different regulations, the next question is about what challenges exist in cross-border payments for Islamic financial institutions. And it's not only for the Islamic financial institutions, but for the users of these Islamic financial products as well. So if I'm a company, I have one bank account in an Islamic financial institute. I've got one bank account, let's say in Europe, under a non-Islamic finance setup. How the different amounts can be utilizing and complying both of these requirements at the same time. So I'm sure that there are a lot of challenges. Just tell us a couple that what are the main challenges that these cross-border payments are affected by Islamic finance.
Yes, there are a couple of different challenges sometimes Islamic banks or Islamic financial institutions are facing. By the way, when I'm talking about Islamic finance have a different component. In Islamic finance, as I mentioned, the total size of Islamic finance is about $4.5 trillion right now. So about 80% share of Islamic finance belong to the Islamic banking, which is the one of the major component. The second component is Islamic capital market, and the third component is the kafur, which is Islamic insurance. Then the fourth component is Islamic microfinance or Islamic SME finance. The fifth component of Islamic finance belong to Islamic fintech, which is emerging. And by the way, Islamic fintech is trying to address the issues of the payment as well. And then we have Islamic indices, Islamic stock market, and etc. But all these chain are facing that issue of the payment. So what the major issue to the Islamic finance is the payment gateways, which is a emerging issue because I'm working with a couple of Islamic banking and financial institutions in Europe or even in Asia. One of the major challenges is the gateway. The second emerging challenge is the security. The payment securities and payment sending protocols and etc. And then the high transfer fees. That is another challenge that sometimes, because if we see a lot of Muslims, immigrants, or Muslims, people who are living in, especially in Europe, America, Canada, they are mostly from the Muslim world. And when they want to send their money to their families, the high transfer fees is one of the issue for them as well. And then there are a lot of issue for the compliance. You have to fulfill a lot of compliance issue to transfer the payments and etc. The cross-border transactions sometimes are the issues. And I believe the organization like yours and the Islamic fintech and as well as the technology like the blockchain technology and many other technology may address such issues in the future or near future.
And I believe that there needs to be some kind of partnership between financial institutions as well, right? Because if they don't really communicate with each other, it will be very hard to be able to send the funds, which is compliant in both ways. So it has to be an acceptance and acknowledgement and an application of the different rules, even if the institution itself is not an Islamic financial institution, but to be in compliance with all those rules as well, if they are sending any fund through those rails, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm agree with you.
Right. So we talked about the challenges, but let's talk about the products, those financial products that we see mainly when we are talking about fintech companies, the credit cards, the buy now, pay later, and other payment solutions. How do Islamic banks handle all of these financial products without charging interest? Because with the credit cards, the whole point is the interest. Buy now, pay later is all over the world. It's even in Asia and Africa and emerging markets, Latin America, everywhere. So how the Islamic financial institutions tackle this problem that there is some fashionable financial product, but it's based on interest? What's the alternative?
Yes, in Islamic finance, we have buy now pay later schemes as well as credit card. By the way, in Islamic banking, very few Islamic banks have a credit cards. Mostly they have debit card. I give you the example of Pakistan. In Pakistan, they have about more than 30 Islamic banks. Among them, about 6 banks are the full-fledged Islamic banks, and rest of the banks offering Islamic banking services as a window operation. But in Pakistan, only one bank have Islamic credit card. Rest of the banks have only debit card. Yes, the banks globally who are offering Islamic credit card, they are working basically on the basis of admin fees, or there is a one structure which is called wakala or kafala, or they are charging the fixed fee. Buy no pay later scheme also working globally in Central Asian countries. I saw a couple of very good Islamic fintech who are offering services. Even in Africa, I saw a couple of Islamic PNPL providers who are providing that services on the basis of different contract. In Islamic banking, basically, we have a long range of product. For example, if we talk about the product range in Islamic finance, we have about more than 50 products. Couple of products are working for a deposit mobilization as for the liability side of the Islamic banks to take the deposit like Mutarba, Musharka, Wakala, Watiya, and many other products. And most of the products are working at the asset side for the financing of Islamic banking. Those products are Mudarpa, Musharka, Murabia, Tawaro, and many others. So, yes, in both, basically, those products are the contracts. And in those products, they have some ability to be utilized. Those contracts may be utilized to structuring for the credit card, structuring our BNPL, and etc. In Islamic banking and finance, we have Islamic financial engineering. On the basis of that Islamic financial engineering, the Sharia scholars and the Islamic banking expert, they are designing a lot of products which are fulfilling such type of demand of the Islamic banks.
Is there any top financial products which are very, very popular currently? Or is there any very famous products, financial products that you want to mention? I mean, obviously, we know credit cards from the traditional banking, but you mentioned a couple of names. How are they different, but basically fulfilling the same one? Or is there any specific kind of financial product which is very, very popular today?
Yes, if we see the global Islamic banking industry, right now, on the financing side, for the banks or either for the fintech or Islamic microfinance, about 60% of global Islamic banking financing based on Murabaha. But in couple of countries, about 90% of their portfolio for Islamic banking financing based on Murabaha. I can give you some name. For example, in Ethiopia, Ethiopia is a very big market. More than 115 million population in Ethiopia. They have about more than 20 Islamic banks, including full-fledged bank and the window operation. They are 95% of Islamic banking financing based with only one product, Murabia, even 98%. Similarly, in Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, they are more than 80% market belong to Murabah. So as per the product, the almost and very common product for Islamic banking financing is Murabaha. And for the deposit mobilization, I mean at the liability side of Islamic banks, the most common product is Mudarba or Wakana. Mudarba is very common product, about more than 60-70% of the deposit, which is being mobilized by the Islamic banks or Islamic microfinance or Islamic fintech. They are utilizing Mudarba for that. So for the financing, Murabaha, Ijara, and Dimnishni Musharka, these are common product. For deposit mobilization as a liability side product of Islamic banking, Mudarba and Wakala is the common product.
Right. Can you tell us a bit more about how do they work? Because maybe some people just hear these kind of names for the first time. Just to really basically just explain that what is it similar to, how do they work?
I give you a very simple example that how Islamic banks works and how these products are working in Islamic bank. For example, I'm the Islamic bank. And how Islamic banks work? I usually take the deposit from my client. For example, I have 50,000 depositor client in the saving side. So I will take their saving, their deposit on some basis of partnership on the Mudareba. What is the Mudareba? That I will say that investment belong to your people. I will act as a service partner. I will not include any investment. So I will put their money in one pool That depositor pool will be called the investor pool, and I will act as a service partner. So it means at the deposit, I will take their money from the depositor, and then I have 10,000 clients who are my financing client. I will give that money to my financing client on the basis of murabaha. Murabaha is the selling product, whereas the bank have to sell any asset, not cash money, any asset to the client on profit margin, or I will give that money to my client on ijara. I mean, for operating leasing principles, I will give any asset to them for operating leasing, and I'm taking the rental from there, or I'm giving that money might be on the basis of diminishing mushaka. So it's mean when I will give that money to my financing client, I'm earning the profit from them. For selling that product, I mean on the basis of murabia or on the basis of Islamic leasing, I am taking the profit from there. For example, I'm taking 20% profit from my financing client. So that 20% profit is being distributed between the bank and the depositors. So whatever is profit I will take from my financing client, that financing on the basis of murabia, ijara, sharka, or tawaruk, when I will take profit from there, that profit, because in deposit side, I have a partnership with the bank and the client that if there is the profit, I will share that profit. So since I am having that profit, so I will share that profit to my depositors as well. So this is the structure that how Islamic banks basically work, how Islamic banks keep the profit to their depositor. According to the different international studies, which is conducted by different multilateral organizations. So in those studies, that is evaluated that in Islamic banking structure, the profitability of Islamic banks is sometimes much better than the conventional banks, because Islamic banks is dealing with the real economic activities. Whatever is the profit the client are generating, they are taking that profit from there and sharing with their client. Therefore, the many international banks, including Barclays, ABN AMRO, Standard Chartered, you name it, global, HSBC, whatever name you can take, they are doing Islamic banking. Because number one, very transparent system. Number two, very ethical approach. Number three, the sustainability. During the international financial crisis in 2007, we learned a lesson that financing without backing of asset is always risky. And in Islamic finance, basically Islamic finance is working on the basis of asset-based financing. So then there are different studies which evaluated that in a globally, we have one unique system, which is the Islamic banking system, who have asset-based financing. And therefore, during that international financial crisis, we do not have any evidence that any Islamic banking or financial institution was hit due to that crisis. Because in Islamic banking structure, we have asset-based financing mechanism. I would like to add one thing, that in different countries, Islamic banking and finance have a different name. For example, in Pakistan, in UAE, in Malaysia, in Indonesia, we are Muslim majority countries. That is called Islamic banking. But in Europe, sometimes that is called ethical banking. In Turkey, Islamic banking is called Catalan banking, which means participatory banking. In Ethiopia, Islamic banking is called by their regulator interest-free banking. In Nigeria, by their regulator CBN, Islamic banking is called non-interest banking. I was in Cameroon, Islamic banking is called in Cameroon specialized banking. In short, whatever name we have for Islamic banking in globally, but their underlying principle is the same. Because there are a couple of international organizations who are designing the standard for Islamic banking, like OAFI, Accounting and Auditing Organization for Islamic Financial Institution, like IFSP, Islamic Financial Services Board Malaysia, which is one organization of the central bank who are designing the prudential and other regulation of Islamic banking and finance. Other than these international bodies, the World Bank, IMF, United Nations, and the regional development bank like Asian Development Bank, African Development Bank, European Bank of Reconstruction and Development. They also have Islamic banking windows or component or department to addressing Islamic banking. So in Islamic banking, the profitability of Islamic banking is very good. And I explained that how Islamic banks basically works without involving of interest.
Fascinating. Can you tell us a bit more about the insurance as well? Because you mentioned that the takaful is a specific type of insurance regarding the Islamic banking. Can you explain a bit more about the insurance and how the insurance differs from the European type of insurance?
Takaful, which means Islamic insurance, right now about 498 Takaful companies are working about 72 countries. And there is a mulching concept. By the way, I have experience to setting up about 21 Takaful companies in Asia, Europe, and Africa, an Islamic component which are involved in insurance. Therefore, the Sharia scholar says insurance is not permissible for the Muslims. So what are those un-Islamic elements that in insurance they have, again, interest, they have gharar mean uncertainty in the business contract, then they have some gambling element over there, and they have one issue of risk transfer. These are the basically four un-Islamic element which is not recognized by Sharia. So in takaful is a mechanism from which the takaful companies are working without interest, without gharats, without gambling, and without risk transfer issues. So that is growing very well. There are a lot of takaful companies from Malaysia, Indonesia, from Middle East, from Africa, and etc. And apart from the takaful, we have Banca Takaful to sell up Islamic insurance product through Islamic banking branches. Then we have Micro Takaful for poverty alleviation and to underwriting the risk at micro level, the risk related to the livestock, crop, and other micro businesses. By the way, I saw one Islamic cooperative who are doing Islamic banking and finance in Spain. We help out them to design one pool for the takaful as well. So many other European countries also have takaful companies, including in US, including in Russia, and etc. Yeah, that is the brief for the takaful.
Lovely. And it's really good to see the diversity of the different financial products that people can take advantage of in any area of the world, and the realization that the financial institutions need to offer alternatives to the diverse user base. What are the regulatory challenges for Islamic banks and payment providers? And my other question would be, who is checking them, and what is the regulatory body overseeing their activities, and how they make sure that they comply with all of those regulatory requirements globally, because I'm sure that every country is different, but all over, who is checking, and what are those regulatory challenges for the Islamic finance entities?
Yes, there are basically different type of regulatory regimes is available. As I mentioned that right now Islamic banking and finance is being practiced in about 120 countries. And in 120 countries, we can say only 8 or 9 countries, they have full-fledged regulatory regime or regulatory environment. I mean, they have a complete Islamic banking regulatory structure. And then there are about 34 countries who have partially regulations. They have an interactive or guideline to how to manage Islamic banking and finance. And unfortunately, about 40 to 50% market where Islamic banking is being practiced, they do not have regulation to manage the Sharia compliance or regulation for Islamic banking. But in such cases, the countries who do not have regulations, we being the Sharia advisors, we advise them, then they should have self-regulatory structure to manage the Sharia compliance. There are some international bodies who design the structures, the regulations for the Islamic banking and finance. One of them I already mentioned, OFI mean Accounting and Auditing Organization for Islamic Financial Institution. They have designed Sharia standards, accounting standards, auditing standards to manage Islamic banking and finance. And then we have another body, IFSP, Islamic Financial Services Board, who already designed different prudential and other regulations. Then we have some multilateral organizations who are supporting for the regulation for the Islamic banking, like Islamic Development Bank. Islamic Development Bank is a bank of 57 Muslim or Muslim minority or majority countries. So Islamic Development Bank helping out to the central banks, to the regulator, not only central bank, might be the insurance regulator, might be the capital market regulator, might be Securities and Exchange Commission, etc. And they are providing some technical and financial assistance to design the regulations. And then the other multilateral organization like United Nations work for a couple of UN bodies for Islamic banking regulations. And then some continental bank like Asian Development Bank, African Development Bank, they are helping out to them. The many multilateral organizations, the continental bank, the regional banks, and some specific bodies, they are trying to manage the regulations of Islamic banking and finance. But who will implement those regulations? The central banks or regulatory bodies. And this is a very good news that the central banks and the regulatory bodies, they are very much willing for Islamic finance. They understood that Islamic finance is a very good tool of financial inclusion. They understood that Islamic finance is a diversified product, a new range of the product. And therefore, in Muslims and non-Muslim countries, the Islamic finance is equally popular. For example, I was in South Africa. In South Africa, the Muslim population is the less than 2% of their total population, but they have about 9 Islamic banks. And when I saw their portfolio, I saw one portfolio of one of the full-fledged Islamic bank over there, then more than 50% of their clients are the non-Muslims. So yes, for the regulation point of view, Islamic banking is getting better and better. In some countries who have full-fledged regulation for Islamic banking and finance, but some countries, they have a partial regulations, but rest of the country, they are struggling to have some regulations.
But how do these different financial institutions even trust each other? Because if they are regulated differently, they might do things differently. So what is the common trust element that they trust each other enough that they do business with each other? And who is overseeing that, who is doing it right and who is doing it in a different way, which is not right? So because usually in the traditional financial system, when we are sending money from Europe to the US, there are commonly accepted norms and there is a common regulator there. But as you mentioned, it's so complex and it's so different country by country and regulator by regulator. How you make sure that everything is kept to the required standard and how these financial institutions even trust each other to do business with each other?
Yes, for Islamic banking, whatever regulations, whatever the structure and whatever the guidelines have been designed, those guidelines and structure and standard have been designed along with the international standards. For example, the accounting guidelines for the Islamic banking is designed alongside IFRS, International Financial Reporting Standard. And similarly, for auditing guidelines for Islamic banking, also in line with the international standard. As I mentioned that right now about 6,000 Islamic banking and financial institutions are working, which is almost a very good, strong market. They have some common standard And those standards has been designed along with the international conventional standards, coordinations, and etc. As per concern about the utilizing of the technology and the platform, for example, conventional banks also use SWIFT, Islamic banks also use the SWIFT. Conventional banks also might be utilizing some other platform. Islamic banks are utilizing the platform. Islamic banking doesn't mean that they do not utilize the platform which is being utilized by the conventional banking industry. Now, what is the Islamic banking? That the Islamic banks have to work to just avoid un-Islamic elements from there. I mean, they will not utilize the interest and they will not utilize the uncertainty contract and etc. Otherwise, Islamic banks, especially as you mentioned about the payments, they are utilizing the similar payment system. They are utilizing might be similar technologies, but without interest and other un-Islamic elements.
So let's talk a bit more about the technology. So what do you think that how does technology support the growth of the Islamic finance and banking and payment services? Is it the same as we see with the commercial banking, with the fintech companies merging the technology with the regulation and then coming up with new products? Or is there something different there? Is there any way that we can utilize the technology to connect those products, the Islamic finance products and the commercial banking products, and all over how technology can help the Islamic banking to reach in further areas as well and get more users?
Yes, in Islam, we do not have any restriction to utilize the technology unless the process flow of the technology and utilization of that technology is the Sharia compliant. So in Islam, we do not have a limitation. Therefore, in Islamic fintech, Islamic financial institutions are utilizing the blockchain, they are utilizing the InsurTech, fintech, CBDCs concept is available at the central bank level for Islamic central bank digital currency. We are utilizing Takatak means the Kafur technology. We are utilizing metaverses, augmented reality, virtual reality, artificial intelligence. So in Islam, we do not have any limitation to utilize the technology unless the process flow are the Sharia compliant. So for the payment system, we have a lot of clients who are the conventional payment system. They approach to us to make them the Sharia compliant. So after having some review and with some guidelines, we make them the Sharia compliance as well. So as per the systems, as a core banking system, yes, they have differences. Because in conventional banking, their banking product structures are different than to the Islamic banking products. So in Islamic banking, we have specialized core banking system. By the way, the Islamic bank cannot utilize the conventional core banking system due to the couple of limitation of the Sharia for accounting, for auditing, and etc. So right now, the major software core banking provider, even whatever name you have in your mind, they have Islamic core banking module for the Islamic banks. And then we have couple of specialized core banking system, which is being offered by some software companies who are only dedicated to design Islamic core banking system, or the Kafur system, or Islamic fintech system, and etc. In Islamic finance, basically, or even in the tech, we had two types of companies, either the full-fledged Islamic company or either the window operations. So some technological company, they have full-fledged Islamic core banking system. There are 4 or 5 such companies are working in Kuwait, even in UK, in Malaysia. Only they are producing Sharia compliant technological services to Islamic financial industry. And secondly, there are the conventional core banking providers or technological providers. Let me name a couple of them, like Oracle Financial Services, T24, and many others. But they have Islamic modules for Islamic banking or Islamic financial services. So as a technological point of, but still there is a huge gap in this area. Still we require a lot of full-fledged technological provider who are serving to Islamic banking and financial industry.
Right. Can a financial company be Islamic finance as well as the traditional one? So, for example, a big bank can have a department for Islamic financial products while still doing the commercial banking activities, or it's not allowed. So one company has to dedicate itself to one or another. Or do you see any kind of mix through your experience when there's a bank and they also have these products and those products, and basically they are doing both? How does that work?
You are absolutely right. In Islamic finance industry, we have both type of products, either the full-fledged Islamic banks or either a conventional bank may offer Islamic banking services. Right now in Islamic banking, about majority of Islamic banking services provider, they are the conventional institution but offering Islamic banking or Islamic financial services. So I can give you a couple of names like HSBC Amana. They used to be offering Islamic banking services, Barclays, Standard Chartered, and etc. So if we see in the number wise, right now 70% of Islamic banking services is being offered by the conventional banks by having Islamic banking window operation. And those Islamic banking window operation is an independent department who is looking forward are the Islamic banking operation. And one of the core responsibility of that department is to ensure the Sharia compliance.
Thank you. Interesting. We talked about the technology, but we have to talk about AI as well. Do you think that AI is being utilized differently in Islamic finance? Do you have different data points to train the system on that? Can it be even a database which is separate from commercial financial data than Islamic banking financial data to even train those AI systems? What do you think? Is it the same development when it comes to AI and handling the financial operations internally by the bank or the financial institution through AI? Is the same in the commercial banks and the Islamic finance institutions, or there are like different challenges when it comes to artificial intelligence and the use cases of that?
Yes, I don't think so. There is any harm to utilize artificial intelligence in Islamic banking and finance. We have evidence that many Islamic banks are utilizing AI, and even we have some robo-advisor investment firms who are making Sharia-compliant investment by AI. They have robo-advisors. They have, as well as a lot of AI interventions is being implemented in Islamic finance industry. But again, the question is that those AI will not involve in such transaction or activities which is not Sharia compliant. And currently we are working with one group of investors as well to set up one quasi form for the Sharia compliant investment, which is 100% the investment will be made through artificial intelligence. Yes, we are working. Even recently, we are working with one group of investors. They are trying to set up one Islamic bank at Metaverse. And that bank mostly utilize AI-based instrument, some chatbots and etc. And that Metaverse-based bank, we are working that Metaverse bank will not have any physical plants, definitely. And that Metaverse bank will not utilize this mobile as well, the mobile as a platform or technology. And whenever any client who will utilize Islamic banking services for that Metaverse bank, they will utilize their virtual headset. And in virtual world, he or she will go to the Islamic bank branch and will fulfill their banking and financial need. So even there are some other concepts are working along with that as well. So in Islam, we do not have any restriction to utilize technology or artificial intelligence or emerging technologies.
Fantastic. I can imagine all of those users who are in the metaverse are still need to go to the bank branch to sort
Yeah.
out that.
Yeah, believe me, within 5 years, you will find a couple of metaverse bank, either in conventional banking or Islamic banking. That would be another value addition in the digitalization of Islamic banking and finance. By the way, technology is transforming the lives. Technology is transforming the banking, financial, and other industries. I used to be work with one bank that was the nano bank. Nano bank is lesser than to the microfinance. And for that nano bank, we design their financing mechanism 100% on AI. For example, I need $50. The nano bank have a financing limit up to maximum $100, by the way. So if I need $50, I will just apply for $50 loan. So how my loan will be processed in within 5 seconds, because that bank is launched by the one cellular company. What they will see that what is my credibility, how much balance I have to use, what is my geographical location, how many calls I have to receive per month, how much calls I have to make, how I utilize that mobile services. And within 5 seconds, they will make the decision either I will be accredited worthy to be financed for $50 or not. So all that Sharia-compliant nano finance we made through artificial intelligence. And similarly, there are many other implementation of artificial intelligence in Islamic banking and finance. And as I mentioned, by technology, the prices of the financial products are going down. I give you one of my lifetime experience. When I was a child in my village, the insurance people used to become to insure the livestock. And what was the mechanism to insure that livestock? That when they insured any buffalo, cow, and horse, they put one permanent tag in the ear of the livestock, which means that that livestock is insured. And when I was a child, we go to the different houses, and when we see any horse or cow with that tag, we see that this is special cow. Basically, what was the mechanism, the claim mechanism, that whenever the cow or horse is died, the farmer cut their ear and go to the cities that my cow is died, give me the claim. And I witnessed that in my village. I saw many horses and cows without ear. Which means they cut their ear and they get false claim. But right now, due to the technology, how they insure the livestock? They insure the livestock, they put a GSM SIM in the body of the livestock, or sometimes that is a very small device which is swallowed by the livestock and that's stuck with their stomach. The price of that device is only less than $2. But when there is any claim, they do not need to cut the ear and etc. or any false claim. The insurance company have to check from their system either the heart is beating or not for the livestock, because that device gives the signal to the insurance company. What is the geographical location? What is the mobility of that livestock and etc. So it's mean due to the technology, the false claim is almost zero right now. And you will be surprised to know the prices of the insurance for the livestock is dropped down up to 60% because false claim has been eliminated due to the technology and the prices goes down. Similarly, we have a lot of implementation of the technology in the banking and financial services, that how technology is transforming the life of the poor, how the technology is reducing the price of the financial or insurance product, and how the easiness has been emerged by the emergence of the technology.
What an absolutely fascinating story. It's really good to see that, the Islamic banking also taking advantage of this new technologies and make sure that these products are more and more accessible worldwide. But what do you think? What is the other role that Islamic banking play in financial inclusion and accessibility? Because I think that a lot of people could not get in the commercial banking system. They could not take good advantage of all of those developments and technological innovations simply because it was not according to their Islamic finance rules and regulations. So what do you think that what is in the future, how we can use Islamic finance to get more and more people included in the financial system and allow them also now through their religion to be able to take advantage of all these financial products and services through the Islamic banking?
Yes, we need to increase the awareness of Islamic banking and finance. And we also need to also address the misconception about Islamic banking and finance. Islamic banking and finance is a system, not a religion. It can be utilized or operated by Muslims and non-Muslims. But for Muslims, they have an advantage that it is according to their religious belief. But for non-Muslim, this is a very good system for banking and finance, very good system for the risk management, very good system for the fintech, very good system for Sukuk, Islamic bond to raise the funds, and etc. In some time, there is a misconception that this is system only for Muslim. No, this is a misconception. For example, I'm the Muslim, and right now I'm utilizing Samsung phone for this interview. And this Samsung phone have an Android system, which is made by non-Muslim. That system is made by non-Muslim. And I'm the Muslim, I'm the utilizer of a non-Muslim system. Is it affect to my religion? No. I'm the utilizer of the system. Similarly, if any non-Muslim brother or sister may utilize Islamic banking as a system, it will not affect to their religion. They will be only utilizer of the system. So we need to increase the awareness that Islamic banking and finance is a banking and financial product. This is a system, not a religion, which can be utilized apart from any religious interventions and etc. The second thing that we need to develop the regulations, more and more regulations for Islamic banking. We should harmonize Islamic banking product with the technology, with the international standards, and as well as we need to generate the human resource for Islamic banking industry. Like right now, about 50,000 Islamic banking financials are being required in Islamic banking and finance industry. What is the demand of the human resource? The supply is very less. Right now in Islamic banking, we have very short-term approach. What is the short-term approach for human resource? That a conventional banker, they have to take a short courses for Islamic banking and finance. No, they are the Islamic banker. Yes, this is a good, but this is the short-term approach. But for long-term approach, we have to generate the graduate, the master's degree holders, a postmaster degree holders who can serve this industry in a perfect way. There are only 150 universities who are offering Islamic banking and finance education, which need to be increased. This is one limitation. Yesterday, I was in one training. When I asked to the people that what is your education, usually they reply, master in banking and finance or master in insurance and risk management. I said, very good. Why you are here? To learn Islamic banking. Very good. How much time? 2 days. I said, you learn banking and finance in 4 years, but you want to learn Islamic banking in 2 days. How it can possible? So we need the rare talent, human resource. And then we have to introduce Islamic banking and finance in different languages. Why are only in English or Arabic? We need Islamic banking program in French language, in Russian language, in Spanish language, because in South America and Latin America, about 90% population, they are well versed with the Spanish language. So that is all the some hurdles and challenges for the smooth and sustainable development. We have to address human resource issue. We have to address misconceptions. We have to increase awareness. We have to utilize more animal technology to introduce such product. And I believe by having all those things, the industry will have a very great future.
Well, I could talk about this subject for years and years, but I think I would like to encourage everyone who is watching us to check out the Soltesz Institute, because we will launch Islamic finance modules and courses together with Mohammed. And we would like to invite everyone to join those courses, because as Mohammed mentioned, that there is a need and there is a massive opportunity in this kind of financial education here as well. So I would like to thank you everything that you shared with us today. Just let's get to the last page where we see that how to reach out to you and where to find you. Obviously, as I mentioned, that there are going to be a continuation of this at the Soltesz Institute very shortly. But if someone would like to reach out to Mohammed, we've got his email address on the screen as well. And I would like to encourage everyone to please send information, suggestions, requests, comments, or anything that you have heard or seen in this webinar. And I would like to encourage everyone that towards building a more ethical and transparent payment and banking industry, we need to communicate, we need to start the conversation flowing. And as Mohammed said, it's very important that we are approaching Islamic finance as well with a different kind of approach, raise awareness of that, and avoid any kind of misinterpretations and misjudgment on the subject. So thank you so much, Mohammed. Is there anything that we haven't discussed but you would like to add?
Thank you very much. I would like to thank to you, to Mariam and rest of your team for having me in this wonderful and lively discussion. And we will always available to work together for the development of Islamic banking and finance in different part of the world. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And thank you for everyone who was watching us. Until next time.
Thank you.
See you soon.
Thank you very much.